Well, good morning, philosophy students. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Hinduism, and some Eastern philosophies will be the next directive for us in our class. This is just the dispersion of some religions. I'm going to try to keep this pretty quick, but um, what I wanted to explain here is you can see that it's supposedly the world's oldest religion, has no beginning and predates recorded history, and there's no known founder. And what I like to point out on this is that it's important for Hindus to not bicker about when exactly it was founded or who the founder was. So sometimes people tend to um, start focusing on the person instead of the actual philosophy itself. And so a way to get away from that was there's no specific beginning and no known founder. The symbol for Aum, and if we were in a class and we wanted to have some fun, we could just all say this at the same time. And you kind of just, you can say it for a while. And what happens is when you get more and more people saying that, I mean, imagine like a collective 10,000 people all saying Aum, um, with the intent that it was the sound that was made when the universe was created. It makes quite a visceral, how do I put that? Um, just a visceral reaction. Um, if you watch some of the video, you'll listen to the books, the sacred literature for Hindus, and the Rig Veda, the Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita are essentially like guides on how to be a good Hindu. And yoga is combining the body and the spirit and the mind through, like, that's how they kind of practice their philosophies. So there's all kinds of different kinds of yogas within a different kind of intent, for what people need at the time. Now, if you see the statue of Shiva at the bottom, I think Shiva is really interesting. Most of the time people will refer to Shiva as a he, but clearly in some of the archetypes in Hinduism, it's not really distinguishable, but it's very meaningful. And you can see Shiva as standing on one foot, and that represents balance in one's life. Um, and Shiva's eyes are closed, showing introspection, and they're in a circle of fire. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Some beliefs: Dharma, Karma, Ahimsa, Atman, and Brahman. And I'll just let you kind of pause and read these to yourself and ask any questions, because I think sometimes these seem vague, but they're very, very profound to the Hindu beliefs. Oh, and moksha. And I think this one's pretty self explanatory. According to Hinduism, whatever kind of devotion you have, whether it's yoga, some kind of service, you don't have to be a Hindu to find a path according to their beliefs. Some of the customs: sacred cow, being a vegan, vegetarianism, yoga. Um, all customs, I'm sorry, all cultures have a philosophy around birth, marriage, and death. This is a Krishna form of reincarnation. And in Western societies, we kind of get reincarnation, I think, a little misunderstood. I think we make it pretty overly simplified by saying, oh, Hindus believe that you get reincarnated and you come back as a water buffalo or something like that. And it's really not that simple. It's think about how your philosophies are in this life right now, and how what you do matters, and it will carry on to future generations. So in essence, what you do, what you believe, what you practice is carried on. You don't have the same stream of consciousness, but what you do matters. Some of the observances that I think were interesting: Festival of Lights. They celebrate 10 full days just to celebrate the Mother Goddess. And one of my favorites of just reading about, they have a lot of observances, but there's one celebration that's just for brothers and sisters to honor your sibling. And they bring gifts and make food for each other, so it's kind of cool. Holy places for Hindus are mainly the Ganges River and the Himalayas. So anything sacred in nature, they have birth rights, death rights in the Ganges River, and of course the Himalayas are for, well, philosophically, climbing high is kind of deep meaning in philosophy. And if you remember, that was Oppenheimer said that when he was talking about the bomb. Now, this is a real interesting slide because these get kind of shocked. But these symbols that were the swastika, which was from Sanskrit, really is kind of like the ancient version of yin yang or yin yang. And they still do practice it, unfortunately, in the 20th century with, that guy. He took that symbol and made it to symbolize Aryan dominance over the Indian subculture, which he got it wrong. But I think it's really unfortunate you have this symbol that was around for at least 11,000 years and was kind of hijacked. So there's many believers who still have this in Indian and Eastern cultures, but it has nothing to do with, what a guy took this ancient symbol and destroyed it within a decade. So anyway, it's still very alive. It's still very real. And if you imagine it going either clockwise or counterclockwise, that's kind of what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be in motion. You can read this on your own, but they're called avatars, which are forms in the name of Brahman, so one whole thing. I like to think of them as like archetypes or like Greek gods and goddesses as a Western kind of comparison. We talked a little bit about Shiva as the destroyer, and I want you to think about these three things or these avatars. Now, notice how masculine Shiva is in that one. That's so interesting. The destroyer, and the destroyer, I think we initially think about destroying something that's bad, but also think about maybe things in your life that maybe the destruction of a bad perception of the world around you, or a bad habit. So the destroyer is both a positive and a negative force. Same thing with the Ganesh, remover of obstacles, and Vishnu, the preserver of worlds. What things do you want to preserve, and what things are maybe we preserving that we don't need to? Um, Again, the male goddess, I'm sorry, the mother goddess is seen as somewhat supreme. They have goddesses of knowledge, music, and arts. Again, it kind of reminds me of, maybe I don't want to make too harsh of comparisons, but it's similar to Greek gods and goddesses. And then with everyone, I always end with the golden rule and happy Hindu children. So, hope you enjoyed it. Hope it wasn't too long. Tell me about any lessons and give me some good feedback. And have a great day.